Welcome to a special presentation of Renee Reports for Trans Awareness Week. I am your host, Renee Ricchetti. Tonight, I am honored to have such an amazing guest. I'm so excited to have Aleksa Manila on the show. And for those of you in the LGBT community, you know that she's incredibly busy. However, she agreed to join us tonight, and I'm so grateful. For those of you not in the LGBTQI plus community, you are in for an education tonight, certainly. We also will have Oliver Webb later on in the show from Diversity Alliance at Puget Sound. He's going to talk to us a little bit about the Trans Day of Remembrance activities that his organization is up to, both in Seattle and Tacoma. Also, I wanted to take a moment to acknowledge Amari Salisbury of Converge Media. For those of you who don't know, we spent, many days and nights covering the protests for racial justice in Seattle. He's at the back of the house managing things for us tonight. I think we'll have some collaborations and things to talk about in the future, but more on that later. And then also we have a sponsor tonight. I want to take a moment to thank leftofrainier.com. The episode is sponsored by leftofrainier.com, proudly queer and trans operated. For all of your LGBTQ gifting needs, visit leftofrainier.com. Now I'd like to introduce our featured guest, Aleksa Manila. She is
Hey,
Seattle's
Renee.
sweetheart. Thank you very much.
Hi.
And also, of course, everything Aleksa is fabulous. She's been Miss Gay Filipino, Miss Gay Seattle, and Miss Empress of Seattle, among many other crowns. She's also recognized for her social justice activism and community leadership by both Seattle Mayor Jenny Durkin, the Greater Seattle Business Association, Seattle Women's Pride, Public Health, Seattle and King County, the Filipino community of Seattle, and so on. Aleksa is also a genderqueer performer and a therapist, a healthcare worker. She is a drag mother of the House of Manila, and currently she is a subject of Caretakers on PBS. And we'll be talking more about that for sure, Aleksa. You can follow her journey at aleksamanila.com. Now, first, I want to talk a little bit about your drag career. I have a couple of clips, definitely not the best clips, but we don't want to get, copyright claimed. So the first one is you at Leo Party at Neighbors back in 2012.
Oh my goodness.
The second clip is from Gay Bingo 2019.
Oh
Now,
my.
I've never tried drag myself. I definitely don't do it as well as you do. So I wanted to ask you, how did you get into drag in the first place?
Oh my goodness. That's a lot. Well, first of all, thank you. That was kind of embarrassing to see all those old clips. I was like, please let the second one be the last one, taking me down memory lane. How did I first get started with drag? You know what? Like many drag performers out there, I share a very similar story of like being a young kid, roughly around, I want to say age 4 or 5 even. I have early childhood memories growing up in the Philippines. I just remembered feeling kind of different without really recognizing what different really meant. I just remember this vivid memory of being in the playground and looking at the boys, looking at the girls, and sort of feeling torn where I'm told to be with the boys, but then I wanted to be in the girls section with the skirts and the dolls and the long hair. And then slightly fast forward to remembering playing with my mom's dresses and outfits, jewelry for sure, her perfume, and and she's much older, so she grew up in that era of wigs and toppers and those hair extensions. And I just remember playing with those. Of course, not in her presence, always when she would be out and about. Um, Looking back, I'm sure she probably did know. She just never told me, probably did not want to embarrass me. And then high school, college kind of skipped through that. It wasn't until I moved to the United States where I sort of discovered community, so to speak, in the larger LGBTQ community, and recognizing that, oh, wait a minute, there's other people like me. I'm not as different, like different weird, but more like different special. Um, and then I started playing with getting dressed, putting on makeup on Halloween. I believe it would have been roughly 1998, maybe 1999. Uh, and again, like many folks out there who dive into drag, Halloween was sort of our, birth date. And then roughly year 2000, 2001, it became more apparent that it wasn't just going to be on Halloween night. I'm friends with local queens, Shaka Kwan and Teriyaki Temple, and we were the drag queens, the API queens who would run around, following the footsteps of legendary drag icon Geisha Star on the streets of Broadway, Capitol Hill, ending up at Neighbors Nightclub and what other bars there were at the time, like Man Ray, and even closing the bars all the way to like places like Knock Knock, and which isn't even there anymore. And so yeah, that's how it kind of started, just kind of playing dress up, and then one thing led to the other, performing more, and becoming more sort of larger than life with my expression, with the colors, with the outfits, playing what felt right for me. I will, however, take note that a lot of my drag influence actually comes from my mom, who's a huge fan of Hollywood legendary icons, classics, Audrey Hepburn, Grace Kelly, Sophia Loren, that sort of influence, Elizabeth Taylor, and in my mom's own style. I mean, I would always remember my mom's words, which sounds a lot like what Coco Chanel did, apparently said, but she would always tell me, like, if I have big earrings on, forgo a necklace or go with a dainty necklace. And so, like right now, I'm kind of channeling her. I don't have any other necklace, but maybe just this loud, you know, jacket and some, statement rings. But sort of that influence. And yeah, and then I'll skip the part around drag competitions and drag titles. But yeah, that's how I got started.
Fantastic. And I've seen you perform many times, and I'm always in awe, blown away by your performance. You give it everything you've got, 100%.
I try. Even though most of the time it's lip syncing, right? I have on occasion, on rare occasions, sing live, but it's one of those things that I just get so nervous about, like forgetting the words, forgetting the
Mhm.
lyrics. But I do count myself quite blessed, and having had opportunities to open for, Arnaldo Drag Chanteuse, who's one of the most iconic chanteuse live performers out there in drag here in the Northwest, and critically acclaimed around the world as well. To singing with Pink Martini, Portland-based band, with, of course, with Thomas Lauderdale's blessing, he had me sing this song called Bayan Ko, which translates to My Country, which is a Filipino song that was composed at the turn of the century, just around freedom from the Spanish colonizers and embracing, our independence in 1898. But he had me perform that in drag. And at the time, I was Miss Gay Seattle. Oh, I still am with the year. And he would always introduce me to their generally mainstream crowd of heterosexual white people generally. And he would always say, Miss Gay Seattle, Aleksa Manila. And at the time, of course, in those moments, I would always get nervous because I'm in drag and I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to mess it up. But soon after that, I realized how profound that experience was for me on a personal level, but I also recognized how it hopefully influenced LGBTQ people out in the audience who could see themselves in me be part of mainstream community, even though it's for the arts and it's for music. It's a representation of who we are and who we could be even more.
Now you're a member of the international court system, and I
I
think
am.
there's a lot of people at home who have no idea what any of that is. Um, so I know that you're the air. I don't even want to say it. I can't even say all the different like titles that you have over there. So why don't you just explain to the folks at home what is the international court system?
Absolutely. So I think you were about to say heir apparent, 10th in line of succession to Queen Mother of the Americas, Her Most Imperial Sovereign Majesty, Queen Mother, Empress Nicole the Great de San Diego. And yes,
Yeah.
I agree. It's a mouthful. So for folks that are unfamiliar with the International Imperial Court system, this was actually founded in the 60s by Jose Saria or Saria. And Jose Saria, or we lovingly call her Mama Jose, is actually noted as the first ever openly gay man to ever run for public office. He ran for the position of city supervisor in San Francisco. He actually predates who most people recognize as Harvey Milk, and they were actually friends. And so when he ran that year in the early 60s, he lost, unfortunately, but he had thousands upon thousands of votes. And the local guild of San Francisco, LGBTQ guild, wanted to still honor her and recognize what she had done or he had done, and wanted to name her, get this, Queen of San Francisco, right? Like, I know we know that you lost the city supervisor position with San Francisco, but we want to name you Queen of San Francisco. By this, she replied, no, no, no. I'd rather be Empress of San Francisco. I'm already a queen. For folks that are not familiar with this, calling a gay man queen is a term of endearment. And so moving, fast forward, this title of Empress is really paying homage to the European monarchy system. So now San Francisco gave birth to this idea of naming someone Empress of whatever city. And then along the I-5 corridor, Portland, Seattle, Vancouver, BC then followed suit and created our own imperial systems. Basically, think of it as any major city between the United States, Canada, and part of Mexico has an imperial court system. We have over 65 chapters. So we have more coronation weekends than there are weekends in a calendar year. And so each of these organizations run independently as local 501c3s or local nonprofit organizations, and we donate to our local charities. For example, the Imperial Court of Seattle donates to, more recently, Northwest Harvest, to Lifelong, back when it was Northwest AIDS Foundation, for example, Lambert House, and so on and so forth. And many of the titles that we actually know today, for example, again, the Empress of Seattle, that's a given, and that's the highest drag title in the state of Washington. And then the Miss Gay Seattle, which I held in 2004, is actually under the wings of the Imperial Court of Seattle. And a little bit of trivia, the Miss Gay Seattle actually is the oldest drag title west of the Mississippi, predating the Stonewall riots that we celebrate today as Pride celebrations. So that's the international court system. And when I said earlier, the heir apparent, so it follows that sort of lineage, right? So if it came to it, I would be 10th in line to become this title of Queen Mother of the Americas. And then over time, we then had emperor titles or male titles. And more recently, we've been embracing non-binary titles. For example, we now have, in addition to an empress of whatever city, Empress of Seattle, for example, or emperor of whatever city, we now have an emprex title. And just for the second year now, we now have not just a Mr. Gay Seattle, not just a Miss Gay Seattle, a Ms., but now we have a Mix Gay Seattle, again, to embrace this idea of non-binary folks in our community. So yeah, long story short, I know it's a mouthful again, but I get excited because this is part of LGBTQ history that when I was younger, this was important for me. I always have a hunger for information and history because I have an awareness of paying respect for folks who came before me and who paved the way, and we are marching with, in this fight for equity and equality. So it's really important for me to share this. So I thank you for this opportunity to share this history.
Absolutely. I try and talk to people so often about the international court system, especially those that are not part of the LGBTQIA community. For those of you who don't know what LGBTQI means, it's lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer questioning, intersex, plus, and allied. Yeah. Now, are there any titles that you do not currently hold or have held in the international court system?
Oh, there's many. I mean, there's actually more. Think of it as many as you wish so that we could embrace everyone. There are other titles like the King and Queen of the Seas, King and Queen of Hearts, Imperial Prince and Imperial Princess, for example. And then you have the bar titles. So I'm actually an honorary Ms. Neighbors, for example. And then every now and then you'll hear other drag titles. In fact, I believe there might be a Ms. Jaegerbomb. A lot of these titles are really for fun and to just invite everybody to be part of celebration and a part of community. Let's see. I'm also La Femme Magnifique of Puget Sound, which is a drag competition to crown the most glamorous female impersonator. And then there's other nationwide national titles that I don't have under my belt, like Universal Show Queen, Miss Continental. You've got all these like different titles just across the country and really across the globe, right? And now I would even add to that list, RuPaul's Drag Race winners and all the contestants, because they really have this platform for educating and entertaining the masses.
Thank you so much. I think that was more than anybody needed to know for a lifetime. But you're absolutely right. I mean, I've been a part of the LGBTQI plus community for years, obviously decades at this point, and I still can't 100% explain all the titles and all the things that are part of the international court system. But what I do know, and what I do tell them, is all the good work they do, not only in the performances that they provide to the community. Not only in the social service, not social service, public service that you provide, the volunteering that happens, but like you said,
absolutely.
the hundreds of thousands of dollars that are donated through the international court system.
Well, in fact, you mentioned social service. In addition to that, like folks might be more familiar with this, that there is a Harvey Milk stamp. So the task force, the LGBTQ task force, was critical in making that happen. But that was in tandem with the international court system. And now we're actually, and I'm on the regional campaign for the West Coast, we're actually urging citizens, folks, to urge the United States Postal Service to now honor other LGBTQ heroes, Marsha P. Johnson, Sylvia Rivera, and Bayard Rustin, in addition to Harvey Milk. Harvey Milk happened a couple of years back, and we want to extend, this symbolic representation of LGBTQ people, but particularly LGBTQ POCs. Again, Marsha B. Johnson, Sylvia Rivera, and Bayard Rustin to be commemorated in these stamps, right? So please check it out, lgbtqueenstamp.org. And speaking of Harvey Milk, a couple of weekends ago, we actually christened a U.S. naval ship down in San Diego, and it has been named after Harvey Milk. Again, because of the work of the international court system headed by our Queen Mother, Nicole the Great, along with other major organizations that are known at the national and international level. So that actually happened. And thanks to Harvey Milk's family, Stuart Milk, who heads the Harvey Milk Foundation, they were obviously there, and they christened it. I couldn't go because I was hosting the Gay Seattle pageant that weekend.
Now let's talk about the Hero Project for a second, because you were a participant in that, and both of us, Nate Gowdy is a friend of both of us. He's a
Yes.
photographer. For those who don't know, maybe describe that project, Nate's role in it, and
Yeah.
more about that.
Absolutely. I'm so glad you mentioned that. So the American Superhero Project is a photo project headed by Nate Gowdy and also Vish Singh, among other folks. Vish Singh is a Sikh Captain America icon. So what happened is, this is in response to the 2012 massacre that happened in Milwaukee at a Sikh temple. And so him donning the Captain America outfit plus his turban is his way of recognizing how white supremacy manifests itself in the United States, in our current climate. But this is also his opportunity to then challenge stereotypes, ignorance, bigotry, but with humor, compassion, and art. So prior to the photo project, he would just go around, right, the United States, and speak on these issues. And then he met Nate Gowdy, who then turned it into this photo project. So myself and Premier Jayapal, Justice Mary Yu, and all these like iconic people, but also regular people, right? We don Captain America outfits or symbols of it. Yep, you're showing it. Oh, let me see. Yep, you're showing it a picture here. Or we donned like accoutrements of Captain America in that image. So our assignment was either to wear red, white, blue. Right, I chose to wear blue. And if you notice, I'm actually wearing a Filipino terno, which is the national costume of the Philippines. And I wore that to symbolize my roots as a Filipinx immigrant from the Philippines. And then, but then I was holding the shield, like, in sort of this like very sage kind of my meditative way, right? Yeah, and that's one of two images that was used for this. And this is actually on exhibit right now at the Winglook Museum in Seattle's Chinatown International District, among with other images, actually both from Nate Gowdy and my good friend Brian Buck. So that's what the American Superhero Project is. There is a book about that. So check out Nate Gowdy's website, nategowdy.com. And he's got other upcoming projects as well. And I want to take this opportunity too, because Nate Gowdy, who works at the Seattle Gay News, is a internationally recognized photojournalist. His work has actually appeared on the cover of Time magazine. He's a great friend of mine, and he's a local hero here. And talk about allies. He is one of the kindest allies I have ever met, and continues to do the work with us. And that's the key, is doing the work with us. And I applaud him for that, and I love him dearly for that. Thank you.
Yes, actually, his book Insurrection is available via pre-order. For those of you who don't know, I actually interviewed him as part of the book. So at the back of the book is an interview with the artist between me and Nate. So that'll be published with the book. It is 140 pages, beautiful black and white pictures from the insurrection on January 6th. And I have to tell you, I've seen a preview copy, and I have to tell you, I was blown away. You definitely want to pick this up. It is $60, but for a photo book of 140 pages, that's a great deal.
Oh, it's worth it. In fact, featured here, there's an image of former President Barack Obama behind me. This is actually my office, and that's a photo by Nate Gowdy himself. And I'm not at my home, but in my home is also a huge photograph, a canvas photograph that Nate Gowdy took as well. And it's an image of a Vancouver, BC drag queen at their Pride. It's one of my prized possessions. I get to say I feel very lucky to have a couple of Nate Gowdys in my possession. But yes, sign up for that photo book that's coming up. I already signed up, so I'm excited to read that interview that you spearheaded, Renee.
It's actually very revealing. He reveals quite a bit, and also about sort of something that happened behind the scenes that almost made it. So this book didn't happen, and these photos were never seen. So you want to find out about that. You definitely want to read that interview with Nate Gowdy. I wanted to ask you about Caretakers, which is a program on PBS, and I believe you have a clip of that. Let's roll that.
Sure.
I've really grown to admire and respect the way my drag influences my work as a therapist and vice versa. I found a way for them to coalesce and cohabitate.
Hi, Nanay.
Hey, Yala, kamusta nak?
Okay.
Oh,
Here, Nagi. What's up?
I was hoping to chika over brunch if you weren't, if you were available. Yeah, just text me when you're done with dinner with the lover boy. Hi, I'm Aleksa Manila. I am a social worker by day and drag socialite by night.
Thank you.
Professionally, I am a behavioral health specialist. It's just a fancy term for a mental health therapist. And I'm also a drug and alcohol professional or counselor. I am also a social worker in private practice. Like many immigrants from the Philippines, I moved to Seattle to join the rest of my family. We have a strong and vibrant Filipino-American community. In fact, my very first drag pageant title happens to be the Miss Gay Filipino, which was sponsored by the Miss Gay Filipino of Seattle community. I think Filipinos and Filipino Americans make the most nurturing, most caring, most loving frontline workers. I think it's just rooted in our hearts. It's in our blood.
To my recollection, I don't remember.
How did you get involved with Caretakers?
I know how much you were going to edit. I'm so sorry I started talking on top
Can
of
you
it.
put it? Can you put it a good word for me?
It was actually kind of funny. I'm glad you showed that because earlier I actually skipped through one of my drag titles, and it happens to be the first one. It's the Miss Gay Filipino title. That was my very first drag title in 2001. I won every category except Miss Congeniality. Anyway, we'll move along. How did I get involved with Caretakers? Well, the icon behind Caretakers is actually Gina Rosero, and I'm so proud to share who Gina Rosero is because she is a unapologetically proud trans woman of color. She is Filipino American. She's based out of the East Coast, out of New York. And she came out a few years back via TED Talks, and where she came out as a trans woman. And at that point, she had become a successful supermodel. But she used this platform to come out as a trans woman. And that was so powerful that, including myself, where I was influenced by how empowered she was and is to come out as a trans woman. And I say that with so much pride, particularly now as we recognize a Transgender Awareness Month and Transgender Awareness Week leading up to Transgender Day of Remembrance this weekend. And over the years, I've met Gina at various events here in Seattle, and we just became really, really great friends. And in fact, she has now become one of my drag kids, and I'm so proud of that. So anyway, this is her directorial debut. And this was launched this year in October in honor of Filipino American Month. And this was to recognize the many Filipino American nurses and care workers who had been toiling basically throughout the pandemic, throughout COVID, and other critical events that have happened, including the more pronounced Black Lives Matter movements that have happened, to continue to happen across the United States. So I am one of four subjects. There's Belinda Ellis, who is a Filipino American nurse. There is Chef Channing Centeno, and also Angel Bonilla, who is a contestant from The Voice, who, as far as we know, is the first and only openly trans contestant on there. Oh, sorry, I'm moving, trying to move away from the. Thank you, Left of Rainier, for your sponsorship.
A quick
And
plug, yeah.
so the gist of it is, each of us has this sort of duality of character and of background. So and I've seen the first one, which is of Belinda, and I gotta share this real brief. What was so heartbreaking, but also so empowering, is to learn that during the AIDS epidemic, she was one of the few nurses who stuck around, because at the time people were scared to take care of AIDS patients. But she stuck around and took care of our AIDS brothers, or gay brothers who were afflicted with AIDS. And she took care of them. And then fast forward to COVID era, people again are still were afraid of catching COVID, but again, she stuck around to take care of COVID patients. And so this like this full circle moment. And then Chef Channing provided food for Black Lives Matter protesters and so on. And that's where I come along, is that my story is around being a drag queen, a drag queen socialite, but also being a social worker, a therapist. So it's having this sort of duality, and how I kept, I suppose, busy during the pandemic, and how I well, you'll see it. Each segment, it's less than 10 minutes, so it's really short and sweet. So for folks, I know people these days are like, oh, quick consumption. So please take a look at it. It's via PBS. It's the directorial debut of Gina Rosero with John Mallow with Chasing the Dream Productions. If you forget it, simply type in PBS Caretakers, or if you remember my name, PBS Aleksa Manila, or go to my website. I actually put a link up there. And so that's what it's about. It's about the Filipino American diaspora and what that means in U.S. society amidst the pandemic.
I wanted to ask you about the Babaylan,
Yes.
and how that fits into your life.
Oh my goodness. So Babaylan is a native Filipino term, which loosely translates to the English language, American English language, as two-spirit. Babaylan are these deities and beings in pre-colonial Philippines, where they are believed to embody the spirit of man and woman and beyond. They were seen as educators, healers, chiefs, leaders, and they were revered like gods and goddesses. There are images of them being revered as goddess of fertility, and various images. And so the way I embrace that is multifold. One is recognizing my roots as a Filipino, and becoming now Filipino American, but not forgetting where I came from. And then it also embodies my own gender identity. Now, for the most part, I identify as a genderqueer person, but I definitely consider myself within the transgender umbrella. But I embrace more the genderqueer identity, for the most part, the fluidity of it, right? And so the Babaylan concept is something that is so empowering and so powerful at the same time, that I get a lot of strength from it. And it empowers me to embrace my whole being, in mind, in body, in spirit, in heart, the way I behave, the way I speak. And I try to embody the healing aspect of it. And as a therapist, I fingers crossed, I am able to embody that aspect of being able to help heal people. Now, I want to be clear that I don't see myself as the one, problem solving for someone, but more the facilitator, because I believe in self-empoweredness, self-empowerment. And, it's a blessing and it's a gift if I'm allowed to be part of someone's journey. So I really only see myself as a facilitator. If I can inspire, encourage someone to be their better selves than they were yesterday, kudos to them, less about me. And I try to emulate the same thing for myself, of course, is just to be better than I was yesterday. So that's how I see the Babaylan spirit, and I try to really embrace that, not just professionally, but really on a personal level. And if you really think about it, in so many cultures, pre-colonial, and for the Philippines, pre-Spanish, and if you think about it here, the two spirit, there's such a universal connection and this alignment that the stories really connect. And I think about how colonialism and imperialism erases that narrative, that actually recognizes and pays respect to gender identity, right? We may not have used the same language, and I see that as encompassing of LGBTQ culture and storytelling. Um, and, and and it's just heartbreaking that throughout history, whether it's here or other parts of the world, that those narratives get erased because they don't fit people's perspective of power and privilege. I went
Absolutely.
into that path.
I also want to ask you about your private practice because you do have a master's of social work from the University of Washington.
Yes.
How do you think your practice differs from other providers?
Oh my goodness. Well, it feels weird to answer that. I feel weird because I feel like I'm advertising myself. Um, I don't know
Go
that
for
it's
it, girl.
necessarily
Go.
say unique, because I don't believe that I'm the only one that offers this, and in fact, I believe that it truly takes a village, and the more the merrier. But so I want to preface it with that. But what I focus on are the nuances of the intersectionalities of our identities, whether that's about race and ethnicity, that intersects and sometimes parallels with our sexual orientation slash gender identity. I want to be able to create safe space for that and share that safe space with others. Oftentimes there's a dichotomy, of we'll only talk about race here, but not talk about LGBTQ stuff and vice versa. And what I find powerful is to be able to recognize that those coexist, and somehow we've been socially conditioned that they don't mix well, as if it's water and oil or oil and water. But I want to challenge that and say, but that's many of us, if not all of us. Well, no, let me rephrase that. Let me correct myself. That's all of us. We all have race and ethnicity. We all have sexual orientation and gender identity. See what I mean? Like, I'm socially conditioned the same way other people are, and I have to catch myself. But part of that is, knowing first and then making the change happen. And social change begins with us, the individual, and then we hopefully impact others so that we create a better world for each other and for future generations. So that's what I feel is, special with the practice that I focus on. And I think of myself as this Philippine ex-immigrant from the Philippines who is on this journey, this path of identity. And that means my race, my language, my religion, my spirituality, and my gender. And my hope is that they see a reflection of themselves the way I see a reflection of myself in them, right? Particularly in this culture, in this environment, in this land, we're the minority. And so if we could at least create safe space, even if it's virtual at the moment, if we could create that virtual safe space, that safe space for others to fully realize their full potential as a human being, while recognizing how special they are as an LGBTQ person, as a person of color, as an immigrant, as this and as that, right? So that's my personal hope, both on a profession, but really also in such a personal way, because it's my own story as well. So it means a lot for me to be able to create this space for others. Thank you.
Absolutely. You've been a keynote speaker, you've been an expert panelist, a fundraiser, an auctioneer. You actually were the MC at the memorial service for
Mhm.
our good friend George Bacon, the owner of the Seattle Gay News. You do it all in 6-inch heels. I don't know how you do it. I can't do more than
Carefully.
10 Um, now you've been recognized for all of this work by a lot of different organizations. I'm going to run down a quick list because you deserve it. The Seattle Mayor's Award for Outstanding Leader, Filipino Communities of Seattle Lifetime Achievement Award for Community Leadership, Seattle Women's Pride Champion Award, Grand Marshal at the 40th Seattle Pride, Jose Sierra Honors, to name a few. You're also sainted by the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence. And for those of you at home who do not know what that is, that's a whole nother show. That's a whole nother show. But they're a great organization, a community organization that does great work. But I did want to roll a clip from the 2017 GSBA Awards just to give some people an idea of how fabulous you are.
Or something like that. I wrote a little something because, I'm a DQ, and this is probably as close as I can get to feeling like Halle Berry at the Oscars. And the DQ is like drama queen, so just bear with me. First of all, I humbly accept this recognition on behalf of a community much, much bigger than I am and much more powerful than any highest seat in this country. Because together we are stronger than anyone. And that this is truly for all of us, especially the gays, the lesbians, the transgenders, the genderqueers, the baklas, all of us that are often invisible. And to my fellow immigrants, keep on dreaming. My fellow drag queens and kings, yes, all of you gay boys too that run around on Halloween night only, stay fabulous. Here's the thing, microphone, spotlight, stage, drag queen.
Oh my God, I'm so embarrassed. It has to be probably the longest acceptance speech in the history of the GSP.
Yes, you had 1 minute,
Oh my
girl.
God.
You had 1 minute. You went on for like 5 minutes.
But I joked
Well, that's
about
okay.
that. I don't know if
You
you
know
saw
everybody
that
loved
part.
it.
I joked
Everybody
about that,
loved
and
it.
they told me 1 minute, and then I looked at the host, Gary Tucker, and I said, and I looked at Louise Chern, and then executive director of the GSPA. I was like, oh, that's funny. Giving a drag queen 1 minute, and then of course people laughed. Thankfully, they laughed.
I think everyone should know if you hire a drag queen for your event, it is their show. You have given up all rights. Basically,
That
right?
should be the fine print. Yes.
Absolutely. I did want to give you an opportunity to talk about Pride Asia. I know you're really proud of it. And then
Yes.
also the $25,000 girl that you've given out since COVID-19 started.
Oh
Can
my
you talk a
gosh.
little bit about
Yes.
that?
Yes. So Pride Asia was founded in 2012. Pride Asia's mission is to celebrate, empower, and nurture the multicultural diversity of the LGBTQ plus, and you've already heard Renee say what it is about, community
Mhm.
through the Asian Pacific Islander lens. Um, yes, during COVID, we were awarded $25,000 to give away. And so we gave away funds to folks, and we set out, some criteria and some narrative essay in there. And we were targeting LGBTQ APIs who normally probably wouldn't be reached by regular, COVID relief funds because of culture, because of considerations around religion and family and immigration, language, if I haven't said that yet. And so we went out there, and every month for about 6 months, we gave out hundreds of, and then that ended up thousands of dollars to LGBTQ APIs at the height of the pandemic. And so we're really, really so grateful for our funders for using us as a vehicle, really, to give away these funds. Many of whom, oh, it's just so heart-wrenching to, but also so empowering to read their statements when they applied for the grant. If we could only, give to everyone, but we also recognize we wanted to give in, a substantial amount of funds, because if we gave out to pretty much everybody, then it would be, logistics of grant giving. So I'm sure many of the folks out there understand what I mean. But yes, we are absolutely just so grateful, and that's through our partnership with Partners in Change, a local collective here in the King County region. So grateful for them. Salamat po. Yeah, and please visit us if you're interested. We are welcoming of allies of the LGBTQ API community. Check us online, prideasia.org. Follow us on all social media platforms. You can find us at prideasia.org. Our next project is actually, we're going to be giving away gift cards, and we're going to put it in a tote bag so that you can use it, and it's reusable, and you'll remember how to visit us also on the web. And then we have upcoming projects, dim sum dialogues, and also rice ball. We're launching that winter time, but again, because of the pandemic, we're very careful on how we organize and coordinate all of these things, particularly avoiding in-person events. We want to be careful and not expose to anyone, particularly the vulnerable folks who have health issues and concerns. But yeah, thank you so much for asking about Pride Asia. And absolutely, I'm very, very proud of it. We are a collective of volunteers in the community. Again, it takes a village, and I'm so proud of our membership. Thank you so much.
Yeah, once again, we share many friends. So I know I had to put that in there, otherwise they would beat me. In a loving way, a loving, friendly way. But I wanted to ask you really quickly about, you wear a lot of hats, and one of them is the drag queen story time. I think we have a clip of this.
Oh yeah.
My last family and children of all ages. My name is Aleksa Manila, and I want to welcome you to the Seattle Children's Festival. Today, I'll be reading a very special book presented by Last Week Tonight with John Oliver. And it's called A Day in the Life of Marlon Bundo. And I want to share with you some reviews about A Day in the Life of Marlon Bundo. A Day in the Life of Marlon Bundo is a masterpiece, a real tour de force of great literature. Ooh, a castle, says Bubbles the goldfish. This book was delicious, says Anonymous Grizzly Bear. I know garbage. I've spent my life in garbage. And Marlon Bundo is not garbage.
Oh my
God, I
different
love your
voices.
drag queen story at times. I've watched so many of them now. You've done quite a few during the pandemic.
Yes.
And folks can go to alaskamanila.com to find out when the next one would be, right?
Oh, yes. Yeah. And I want to recognize and thank Egan Orion of Seattle Pride Fest, because that's how Drag Queen Storytime started with Aleksa Manila. It was at Family Day at Cal Anderson Park. I've lost count. My goodness. I think it's been about roughly 10 years ago. And from that debut, other orgs and other entities started inviting me to be part of their special events. And I'll share this portion why it's special to me. Well, one, I love kids. For those, I've said this many times, I've shared this. I actually used to work at Children's Hospital for about 5 years when I was in nursing school. This was many, many moons ago. And so I just love kids. And hence I have my drag house, House of Manila, and I have about 40 plus kids and counting. Anyway, my sort of platform with Drag Queen Storytime with Aleksa Manila is that I am in fact in drag, but what's important to me is the stories that are being read, right? And my focus, and I share this with anyone who invites me to do it with them at their special events, is that it has to be authored by or stories about LGBTQ folks and or POC, right? So I'm so lucky and I'm so happy that Seattle's International Children's Festival invites me over and over the years, the University of Washington, the Winglook Museum, and of course, Seattle Pride Fest Family Day. And I think you showed this earlier. There's actually I'm on the cover of Seattle's Child magazine. I joked that I might be the oldest child model on the cover of Seattle's Child magazine, but that was to feature my time at for Drag Queen Storytime with Aleksa Manila. So that's been, so that's my goal with Drag Queen Storytime, and I don't shy away from saying, if you're just gonna have me read Cinderella, then have somebody else read it, right? Because then it's just the same. It's the story that's been told over and over and over. Now, unless we're telling a different Cinderella story, right? Then that would be totally fine. But so far, no complaints. That the content and the authorship are by LGBTQ and POC folks. My absolute favorite is My Princess Boy, authored by Miss Kella Davis, who is actually from Seattle. Tango Makes Three. Thank You Very Mochi. Goldie and the Three Pandas. So these are just some of my favorites. The clip that you saw is actually a virtual version. Normally this is live. And I tell you, the kids, they are just so smart. And in fact, some of the requests have actually been for adults, particularly over the pandemic. It's been quite refreshing for adults to actually listen to me read children's stories in drag. And I believe that we are really children at heart, right? We are all children of the universe. And if we can bring a smile to somebody's face, because we don't know what people are going through, right? And I can only imagine what that's like, particularly during a pandemic. So if we can make someone smile on any given day, let's do it. And if it has to be, and if it is Drag Queen Storytime with Aleksa Manila, so be it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Aleksa, for coming on the show. If anyone wants to know more about you, about your upcoming events, it's aleksamanila.com. I believe we dropped the link in the chat. Thank you so much, Aleksa.
Thank you so much, Renee. I am so grateful for your leadership and your many, many decades of social activism through journalism, through media. I thank you so very much for creating space for people like me. I owe it to you and all your work with Glisten, that I never forget that. I always remember you with your work with the kids, speaking of children. So I thank you so very much. And thank you, Omari. I know you're back there helping us. What an honor to share space with all of you. Thank you. Thank you. Maraming salamat po. Like you heard, please visit me online at aleksamanila.com or on all social media platforms at Aleksa Manila. Thank you. Salamat po, everyone.
If you don't know, Saturday is Transgender Day of Remembrance, and I wanted to take a moment to remember the trans and non-binary individuals who we've lost here in the Pacific Northwest. Ricky Atamuro of Centralia, she was 39 years old. She died as the result of a brutal murder in her home. We also have Zoe Martinez, a 20-year-old from Maple Valley. She was murdered by an individual that she knew who basically had stolen from her. Both were Latina. I also want to recognize Ollie Taylor of Oregon, a 17-year-old, Jesse Hart of Oregon, 42-year-old, and Joe Aker of Idaho, 26 years old. These are 5 of the individuals we've lost here in the Pacific Northwest who are trans or non-binary. Now I'd like to bring on Oliver Webb. He's the board chair of Diversity Alliance at Puget Sound to the show, so he can talk more about his organization and what they're doing for Transgender Day of Remembrance.
Thank you. Good to see you again, Renee.
Always
I'm
a
excited
pleasure.
about this show. I love Aleksa. I was
Yeah,
gonna say I was laughing in the background. We do not give Alexa 1 minute to speak. That's not a
mhm.
thing that we do.
You
Alexa
know, I
needs at
knew a
least
long time
5.
ago that I needed to give her a platform just to talk because every time she opens her mouth, something magical happens.
Of course.
I am
I
glad that you're
love her
back on
so
the
much.
show because, as you know, the last couple times you've been on, we've been having to talk about brutal murders that have happened in our state.
Yes,
But we have something actually really important that's happening in Tacoma and in Seattle on Saturday. So if you
we
could talk
do.
about that.
And then there's been a couple things actually this week that have happened also. So Tacoma's done some amazing things. On Tuesday, uh, it is Wednesday. It's been a week. So on Tuesday night, Tacoma did a proclamation making TDR an official day in Tacoma. So we accepted that on behalf of our community. It was a historic move for Tacoma, and Mayor Woodards read the proclamation out loud. And you can see that on Tacoma TV. They have recorded it, and then they will send us the proclamation, the official proclamation, and they're going above and beyond, much more than we had requested of them. And we're really impressed with Tacoma. We had asked this of many cities to raise the pride flag for us at half mast, and Tacoma decided that they would do much more than that. Speaking of raising the pride flag, on Friday morning, Astro Pittman and I will be going to Tacoma, and they will be raising the pride flag in 2 spaces for us, and raising it to half mast in honor of all of those that we have lost this year, and specifically those that we've lost in Washington State. And so Astro and I will be on site to watch the flag raising and to assist with that. And they actually ordered trans flags specifically for this. I knew I wasn't going to make it through this. So I spoke to them today to make sure that they would have flags, and they went out of their way to make sure that they were trans flags. And so they came in today. They will be doing it at the Public Utilities building, which is not public, so we won't be able to see that. But if you do want to be able to see the actual flag raising at the municipal building, you can be at Ben Gilbert Park at 11 a.m. on Friday morning, and it will be visible for the municipal building flag raise. So 11 a.m. on Friday morning at Ben Gilbert Park in Tacoma, Washington. And then Saturday, we are doing, DAPS is hosting a dual TDOR. So TDOR Tacoma was founded in 2008 by GAS, Gender Alliance of the South Sound, which is Diversity Alliance of the Puget Sound's old name. This last year, we restructured and decided to serve the entire state instead of just the South Sound. And so we founded TDOR Tacoma. Over the past few years, it was taken over by CIS organizations because we were unable to do it for whatever reason. This last year, we decided that we were going to take back over TDOR Tacoma as a trans-led organization that also serves the trans and gender diverse community. And so we will be hosting that this year with several amazing sponsors. And then TDOR Seattle was founded in 2018 by one of our board members, Astro Pittman, and then the Sissy Trio. And so we've decided this year, due to a lot of issues with COVID, getting spaces, that we are going to do a hybrid uh, dual event, as well as the fact that Astro is on our board. And so we're putting them both under the DAPS umbrella and running a dual city T2R. And so if you are either in Seattle or Tacoma, you can join us in either of these spots. So in Tacoma, it's going to be at the Washington State History Museum, which is at 1911 Pacific Avenue. Or if you are in Seattle, let me look up the address real quick. It is at the University Universalist Unitarian Church. That is the first time I've ever said that correctly in one shot, which is at 6 556 35th Avenue Northeast, which is in the Ravenna neighborhood. And so either of these spots, if you can make it to them, awesome. Either way, otherwise, there are many other TDR events throughout the state. So whatever is the closest to you, whichever is most accessible, or many online options. And then at both of our events, we have many BIPOC speakers coming, and it's going to be fantastic. And we will be releasing those names in the next couple days. We had kept them fairly quiet due to some safety reasons with speakers, and we wanted to make sure that we didn't release them too soon. But at this point, we have had permission to release our speaker names, so we will be doing that in the next couple days. So, yeah.
Excellent. We're going to drop the link to your website in the chat so folks have a chance to go to the website and look at the events and find out, if they missed it, where to go, to attend these events. You want to plug your website really quick?
Yeah, it's www.diversityallianceofthepugetsound.org, and we've also uploaded the entire TDR list for this year. And Astro and I spend all year compiling these lists, and at the very end, right before TDR, we compare our lists, and we do the US and US territories list, so it will be slightly different than the national list. So we actually have 56 names on our list instead of 46, but these will be the lists that we will be honoring this weekend.
Excellent. And I will be live streaming on both Seattle and Tacoma on my social media channels, so people should check that out. The link tree is down below, so you can find a channel and watch it. Thank you very much, Oliver, for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
I also wanted to mention that I wrote an article for the Capital Seattle blog on Monday, and that was about a man who was charged for arson at Queer Bar, a very popular nightclub on Capitol Hill. Calvin J. Garcia, 24, made his first court appearance, and during questioning, he said a whole bunch of really anti-gay stuff. He blamed, queer and LGBTQI folks for leading to him becoming homeless. He said a whole bunch of things that I probably can't say on the air, but definitely go and check out that article. Again, it's at the Capitol Hill Seattle blog, and the link will be dropped in the chat. I want to thank everyone for joining us on the program tonight. I know we went a little late. I also want to thank Amari for running the show behind the scenes. Thank you so much. And that's it. So until next time, good night, everyone.